Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Varney and...
Out of practice.
Mike Ineglio, yeah.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
We may not be a good podcast, but at least we match.
Out of practice.
You know, for all you know, I had a traumatic experience, and all you can do is mock. You don't even know. You don't even know. Wait, you're going to feel so bad. No, you won't. It's fine.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast, a weekly podcast in which me and my buddy Mike, we talk about David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we're up to season 7, episode 2, Convictions. Very excited about it. We have a huge show for you today. But first, we must address the nose in the room. I was going for solidarity. Mm-hmm. So, like, sure, if it was funny, it was funny. But if it was traumatic, I was standing with you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'll tell you what,
what's going on with your nose?
Let's start the show with the most important, interesting part of the show. Why don't we roll that OOPSY cat content, and I'll tell you a story.
Oh, I love it.
We have tried for years to make this podcast a success.
We failed.
It's time to give the world what it wants. Meow, meow. Hot cat content. Meow, meow. Hot cat content. Meow, meow. Hot cat content.
Meow.
Ooh, I am so excited now that I know this might be cat related. I love it.
So, I think we mentioned it last week on the show. We've had a tumultuous week. My little kitty's brother tragically passed away under anesthetic for just his neutering. So shout out to my mother-in-law. That's really, really sad. Really sad. Also, then my sister's, one of her pair of kittens, developed this really weird cat coronavirus. Not a joke. And it's apparently a really, like, fluke thing, and they had to put him down. So it was, like, really sad cat week to start. So I just want to send my best wishes out to my sister and my mother-in-law. Like, that's losing a buddy and a pet is always terrible.
Oh, it's crushing. It's devastating.
So, Keith, you know, the good news that my career is in a free fall as far as performing on camera and on stage, the good news of that is that I don't actually have to be seen by the public very often now, since we both work from home also, and I don't have to go outside and do anything.
You don't consider our listener the public?
Well, hold on. The one and only thing I have to do on a weekly basis, or there's 2 shows we do, is just pop on and do a Skype with you, and then we put it on the internet. And thus far, though, our fluctuation in appearance has been
upsetting?
Wide, abrupt, upsetting. There are plenty of adjectives. Luckily, we've ne'er been deformed. So this morning, I go, could you actually leave the door open next time, honey? It's really warm in here. It's very hot in the office. The computer is rocking a nice graphics card, but it pumps out some heat. So anyway, this morning I'm giving love to my middle cat, Dee Dee, who has had a transformation. He has become such a lovely cat, but he still does have, he doesn't control some reflexes. So I put
aggressive tendencies. Yeah.
I put my face a little too close, Keith, and I've been cut up on the arms. I had an accident this week on my shin. I'm bloody everywhere because of the cats, but ne'er has it come so close.
Oh, right down Broadway.
In the middle. Right in the middle. I mean, that is That one is, so I was like, well, what should I do for the podcast? And what I've decided to do is do a reveal, and just, it is what it is, I guess.
No, we should let it ride.
Just know that my cat fucked me up today. And
Wow.
I'm hoping that you can't even come up with a better story. Like you don't get a little scratch, you don't get like a nose
Just like
scratch.
straight down.
It was perfect. God bless him for aim. So
That's very impressive.
So my challenge to everyone on the podcast today is Jen brought me Neosporin, which I will now, you know what? I will apply on air.
Ooh, we're getting a live Neosporin on air. Very exciting.
Take
Oh
care
my
of
God.
yourself, guys. Clean your wounds. So while we're at it, let me tell you this. Oh, I'm wearing, you know what? How could I show this? I'll show it on screen. The other thing I did today was I've been working out, Keith.
That is funny.
Well, and like my brother just put in my like workout notes. He's like, you should do some like explosive movements. So I was like, I'm gonna do some box jumps. You know how they watch the CrossFitters do like squat and jumps.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I don't have any of those in our little old person gym, so I've been using the curb outside. But it's like a wall. It's probably 3 feet, right? Well, old guy biffed it, totally missed, and I smashed my shin so hard it is bloodied. If I was wearing pants, I would show you, but I'm not. So for me to show you the wound right now would be upsetting, more upsetting than what you're gonna.
I think we can all do without seeing pantsless Mike. That's
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
think
back to the
very
cats.
few things that our audience is unanimous on, but I think that's
Right.
one of them.
Anyhow, it's been I've done damage to myself. I've never felt older than I feel this week. But my cats are doing well. Except for the attempt at my life that was taken.
Yeah.
So enjoy spending the rest of the episode trying not to stare directly at my shattered nose.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Well, ironically and serendipitously, in its own weird way, I'm also rocking a scratch.
Hey,
From Charlie. So last night, as I said on the podcast before, he's afraid to come upstairs at night unless I like show him that there are no monsters upstairs.
upstairs, or just like away from the basement.
No, just upstairs on the second floor where the bedroom is. And so like every night the last thing I do is I take him, I'm like, no monsters, and then he can sleep on the bed and run around and do his usual things. But this time, there was a monster. Because I forget, Jillian was like doing something and she was somewhere I wasn't expecting her to be, and I was holding him and I got startled, then he got startled and he was in my hand, so I have a matching scratch there on my hand.
It looks like a puncture wound almost.
We both have bloody scratches on us from our beloved cats. So there you are. And folks, that is your Oops Cat content. We have to move forward. We have a lot of things to talk about. I want to talk fantasy football and all that, but we'll do it off the air because we have a big show. It's a packed show, and we're going to start it off because we have some really interesting things I'm going to read called
Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas.
Okay, well, let us begin, of course, with how we begin every week on our filings and subpoenas with our fine and dear moderator, Phoenix Cage, who has a couple of comments here. First off, he says, before anybody puts in an offer for $70,000, I feel like I have to point out that no matter how bad things get at KME Entertainment, you cannot sell the CEO. Last week, I forget exactly when were you proposing selling your wife for $70,000? I forgot.
I think I was just using the rule of thumb that the show proposed that $70,000 was a good ransom. I can't remember even the plot point, but that was the number I remember vividly.
No, remember that the woman abducted the baby.
Oh,
Baby's
she was
an adult
paying them
now.
off for $70,000.
She's paying them off for $70,000.
My
Yeah,
bad,
like
please.
so sorry for abducting your baby. You don't get it back, but here's some cash.
But pay off your student loans? I mean,
Yeah,
just saying.
For sure. I mean, it is definitely a better financial proposition. Yeah. So anyway, I enjoyed getting the text from Jen. Said, at least I know what my price is. I know exactly to the dollar how valuable I am to my husband. So Phoenix, also last week I told the story of arriving in New York City, which was a big day and was a disaster. And Phoenix has a story of his own to tell. And he says, Keith, your story about moving to New York is similar to my story of moving to San Francisco. Well, not quite as catastrophic as yours. My first week was just as interesting. At 23, I drove across the country with a U-Haul trailer attached to my Toyota Corolla. Having just graduated, I was going to San Francisco for grad school. I arrived without an apartment or any friends. I spent a week staying in various youth hostels without an apartment or any friends.
Jeez.
Wait. I read it wrong. That's pretty funny either way. I spent a week staying in various youth hostels around town while begging and bargaining to find enough space to park my car and trailer within a mile of lodging. Yeah, hear that. On my first night there, I was walking from my car to the youth hostel in the Presidio when I interrupted a raccoon digging through a garbage can, except it wasn't a raccoon. That was when I learned that San Francisco's version of raccoons were city-dwelling skunks. We startled each other and ran in opposite directions. I sprinted all the way to the hostel. It turns out I probably wasn't at much risk. Skunks in San Francisco are so accustomed to people that they're rarely worth spraying. That we are rarely worth spraying. I imagine that's why hardly anyone outside of the Bay Area knows they are so common there. Interesting. Before I left Toledo, I found a new site specifically made for San Francisco called Craigslist. Oh, I used it to find some apartment prospects that I spent the first week into investigating. I ended up settling in a place in the quiet Sunset District. It was on the 3rd floor and only 2 blocks from the beach. Wow, I could see the ocean from my window. This was my first time seeing the Pacific Ocean. I went on long walks by the water every evening. The sunset is a special part of the city because it is regularly enveloped by ocean clouds.
I feel like we've detoured into like a dating sim here. It's like, I enjoy long walks along the Pacific, moderating non-listened to podcasts.
Yeah, well, all right, I'm going to do the rest of this, dating voice. It is the thickest fog you've ever seen.
You know what? I think I'm going to abort that and ask you not to do that.
My first month in San Francisco was pretty magical. But soon after, I would trade my place by the water for one that was closer to everything and right in the heart of the city. I lived there in the Mission District for the next 2 years. That was uncomfortable for us all. No, but I think that's interesting. Boy, that's a good apartment. San Francisco. I can't imagine what that would cost today. An apartment where you could see the ocean in San Francisco. The most expensive place to live in the world. And lastly, he says, I hate to put a cloud over the happy little video you dug up, but the whole recycling campaign came from companies that manufactured the junk that ended up in the ocean. I did mention that. It was all a clever way of passing on the responsibility to the consumer so they wouldn't have to put in the time and money to make their ... But guess what? There is no show more. He wrote the ... That's funny.
Listen, I will say, I think that everyone listening knows, and if you don't know, I'm about to tell you, but there was the briefest of times around this time period, actually, maybe a little earlier, where Al Gore and the public school system was able to actually capture the zeitgeist of being kind to the planet and maybe making an effort to try to revert the irreversible damage that we've done. What we have come, and I think that as far as the public is concerned, and this is not the corporations, as far as the public is concerned, I think that was a good faith belief and effort amongst those who were trying to make a difference. And I think that continues for the most part.
Sure.
However, what we've come to find, and I think it's not a shocker to anybody, is that was all bought, paid for, and sold by the people creating the pollution to kind of be a self-sustaining ecosystem. That's the crazy thing, is that to this day, Keith, both of us put our recycling out, right? And 90% of that recycling is just going into the garbage.
Yeah, of course it is. But it is very depressing.
Yeah.
That said, I would never stop doing it because 5% is better than 0%. But yes, no, what do you know? Corporate America is, evil and duping us all. What a shocker. All right. Well, let us move forward from that cheery topic. Like, we're still, recycling in your storylines and writing causes no waste. So we're a big fan.
Waste of time, perhaps.
We clearly don't care about wasting our or anybody else's time.
Ne'er have I been closer to a spit take and then had a conversation with myself that was like, oh, for the comedy, that'll be really great if you follow through. But for the disaster financial fallout of the tech you ruin.
Wow. That shows some maturity there.
CEO Jen, come on in. You haven't been on the pod in a while.
Jen!
Nope. Come on. Keith says, come on. Come on. Say hi.
Just never going to do it.
Keith.
Hey, Jen! Woo!
Hi, Phoenix.
How's it going? How's it going?
What do you think of Mike's wound?
It is hilarious, and you don't know this yet because you haven't watched. I have a matching one
No.
on my hand.
Oh my, from Charlie Jr.?
Yeah, from last night.
Guys, we're off the rails. We're jumping the shark.
Oh my
We
gosh.
are-
All right.
We're such good cat dads. It's great to see you. I can't wait to hang out soon. All right.
We have been talking about coming over. I've driven past your neighborhood like 3 times in the past week.
Yeah, we need to set that up. All right. Anyway. Whew, I said we were going to move quickly because we have a lot, but it's not going to happen. Just roll with us. It's just what we do. All right. So from Jorge Navoa.
Jorge, I have been concerned. He says in the first sentence, he's like, hey, sorry, I hope you haven't been concerned. I have been. Glad to hear from you. Hope you're well. Can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Yes. So excellent. He's got a lot here, and as usual, it's cold. So I don't know what he's going to say. It's going to be exciting.
Do you want me to cold read it?
Sure. You have it?
I do. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So Mike's gonna cold read it. Maybe this was a bad idea, but
Keeps it fresh.
okay. Well, we heard from founding sponsor, friend of the show, Jorge Navoa. He has a problem with brevity. He admits it. So I'm gonna skim through and give him the benefit of the doubt. Hey guys,
He gets everything. Come on.
Hey guys,
Jorge's this founding sponsor. Word for word. He gets everything.
Are you gonna keep talking over me, or can I read this email? Jesus. Hey guys, I know it's been a while. Last week, you had a lot to say about Eleanor's character. You not liking her behavior is totally valid. It's your podcast, after all. I put that part in. However, saying it was inconsistent that you don't know that woman, well, pulls out dusty file from the archives. If you recall, in the season 3 episode premiere, Eleanor advised her drunk, Bobby-ramming client to chug alcohol out in the open, and it blew up in her face. In front of everyone. So when Rebecca announced that she passed the bar that same day, how does Eleanor react? Well, she rolls up in her unwelcoming wagon, giving Rebecca the shittiest, most brilliant congrats, you're a lawyer speech ever. Let's face it. Why Ellie is wounded, she is petty. Always has been. She hasn't shown that side in years, and there's a reason for that. Like Eugene's unrelenting need to see the law as black and white, to me, Eleanor's biggest character flaw is directly connected to her career. During the trial of George Vogelman, who, by the way, is not a serial killer, as he has only murdered one woman, Eleanor offered up Helen's off-the-record comments as evidence in open court. Everyone in the firm attacked her, rightfully so, and she got defensive, yet she made it personal only with Lindsay, accusing her of sleeping with the professor. Yeah, she does have, I guess that's consistent. As a lawyer, she's brilliant. Since overturning Stuart Donovan's conviction, she's been on a roll, and we all agree, physically, she is stunning. But as a woman, she's always had low self-esteem. So when she doesn't do well in her career and other women around her do, especially the pretty ones... Remember when she wanted to represent the asbestos clients and the partners voted against them? Eleanor didn't attack the men. She went after Lucy. You're dating a basketball player. Doesn't his head come up to his, knee? And then Lindsay again, giving us the infamous line, this is what happens to a woman when you insert your penis? Oh, yeah. All that to say, I think it's very much in her character to react the way she did with Jamie, the new lawyer, Mike. Jamie's the new hot lawyer. When Eleanor's off her game, the claws come out. It's an ugly yet very understandable flaw. Personally, I think it gives her more layers. Otherwise, she wouldn't be, perfect. I'm not sure it's a David E. Kelley sexist thing because she's the only one of the women who behaves that way in this show. Ally McBeal is another story. Of course, I want her to own her confidence, but isn't that what final seasons are for? We have a PS, Keith, and I'm just going to read it. I can always cut it later. PS, of course, all of this has been the opinion of yet another man. And I have no problem taking a step back if other women agree with your assessment. But this does remind me of Viola Davis's opinion on the black characters in The Help, which I'm sure you know was written by a white woman. She had only one complaint. The maid servants were too kind. They politely accepted their place in life and were very respectful to their employers. Neither the book nor the script captured the anger, the vitriol, the hatred that they would have had towards these white women if they were asked. I know it's not the same thing, but I thought it was worth bringing up.
Yeah, that is a very good point, and I think Jorge, you're 100% right about this is consistent with Eleanor, and I think perhaps I filter it out because I don't like this characteristic of Eleanor, and I want to like her so much. But you're right. It is a very understandable and reasonable character flaw, and our characters aren't designed to be perfect. Interesting. You know what I think it is? I don't mind this as a character flaw. What I mind is it being done in sort of a shorthanded and hacky way. That I think there is a more subtle, more realistic way to depict this exact character flaw that I think that's what's missing. Is how it's being written.
I think that what Jorge brings up that is important for us to remember, because I think often you and I double down on our soapbox that's trying to fight the good fight, we think. But the truth is that, and we put a lot of the blame on David E. Kelley, and the truth is that I think that in giving it the benefit of the doubt and in the best light, what he's trying to do with this portion of Eleanor's character is hold a mirror up to all the girls and women in America who aren't the super pretty ones, who aren't getting ahead because they're super pretty, or getting the benefit of the doubt because they're super pretty, and it's just saying it's thinking it's standing up for them. And I think what your trouble is that often it's done in a way that makes them look petty or ugly. And I don't disagree. I think that both of these opinions are mutually exclusive and can exist at the same time. And but I do get what Jorge is saying. This also brings to light both of these wonderful emails that we do enjoy hearing from you. So if you are not a founding sponsor, or you're listening late or catching up, please do write in, even if it's for episodes from before. Like, don't be afraid. You don't have to be caught up, because it is fodder for better conversation. And Keith and I have proven ourselves not only ill-prepared, but often ignorant to some more valuable opinions on these subject matters. And especially for myself, I'm reacting in real time, so I don't get the opportunity to really revisit some of these thoughts. But yes, yeah.
No, for sure. I love it. Thank you, Jorge, for writing in. Write in all the time. And whenever you want, anybody else can. And Mike, if people were to write in, how would they do it?
Well, Keith, they only have to look at the screen right now if you're on YouTube. And if you're not on YouTube, guess what? I have vocal cords, so I will tell you. You can write us that email at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Or hey, guess what? Maybe you're not doing the emails these days. Too many emails. So you're on the social medias. At Out of Practice Podcast on Facebook or Instagram. You can comment, you can post pictures, you can tag us, do whatever you'd like. Hey, while you're on the YouTube, give us a like. Smash that bell icon, as the kids say. It helps the algorithms. It helps us get seen by more than just, you. And you can help us out.
Yeah, well, there it is. Okay, well, we are going to jump into what should be a very interesting time machine journey all the way back to October 6th, the year 2002, the day that this episode aired, and answer life's eternal question. Mike, what was going on?
This day in the basement.
Well, Keith, I have to talk about something, and it's
I'm excited.
It's pretty important to me. I was going to bring it up last week, but in real time, I was sort of freaking out. It's not huge. It's not a huge deal, but I do want to bring it up. First things first. We were talking about Kelly Clarkson last year, and I had a very vivid recollection of watching the season finale of American Idol season 1 in real time in my apartment in Brooklyn with my girlfriend Jason, my girlfriend Caitlin, and my roommate Jason. Probably should have been the other way, to be honest.
Probably.
Because she was so overwhelmed by the finale. She was like weeping, and I was like, I didn't know you were so invested. And she's like, I just want. It was beautiful and funny at the same time. She's like, I just want confetti. And at the time, me and Jason were like, it was very funny. But the sentiment she was expressing was just like, we were at a point in our lives where we're like, I just want the celebration. I want to win the nymph. Like, when is my break gonna happen, right? I think what Kelly Clarkson in that first season captured of American Idol.
Of course, she was saying this at what, like 22?
Yeah. Well,
when am I finally gonna get my break? I'm 22. I've been doing this for 6 months.
well, I don't know if it was like a lament so much as we moved to New York. We're in. Yeah. But Keith, the point I'm missing is that what that made me realize last week, and I've had a chance to really consider and go through some files and stuff. I skipped an entire year of my life.
What?
On this podcast. I skipped an entire year of my life. I didn't start Forever Plaid in 2002. All of that happened in 2003. I am still in school. I was in school. AMDA was a 2-year program. I graduated in a year. I put myself on the accelerated course. Keith, I'm still in New York. We're in New York together. I'm living in Harlem still. You just moved, so now we neighbors. Yeah. Okay? And what did I actually do in October? Because I remember now. And I went back and I checked.
Skipped that entire year.
I did. So that's why it's good that the VCR, I still have time. I got time to get the video.
You did the same thing I did with Sportsball. I was giving a year later hockey.
Yeah, I was like, how was it? I definitely wasn't in Rochester for 17 months with Forever Plaid, so that's why. It's all that happens next summer, and I only move home for like a few weeks, and then I get Plaid. It like saved my life. Anyway, Keith, me and Kaylin and Jason, that crew that lived in this Harlem apartment that watched American Idol together, in October or November, I believe it was October, because it was right before it got very cold, we went to see an opera at City Opera with free tickets from AMDA, and I'm going to pass it to you now because I believe we have a similar story. We both went to see the same opera.
No kidding.
Yes, indeed.
That is awesome. Okay, so what I was doing, I'll just go straight there. So this was, again, my first couple of weeks in the city. My roommates had moved in, and my roommate Jenny started a job. She is Jen. I'm the only one in the world who calls her Jenny, and she hates it.
Probably now she would.
It's been like 25 years, and
she
now
probably
hates
would
me.
hate it even more.
Probably. I don't know. She's got a life, and she's an adult, and living a much more interesting life than we are. Anyway, so she started working in her first job. We were all starting our first jobs there. Telemarketing for the City Opera in New York City. Now, City Opera, I don't even know if it's still in operation, but I
think so.
They may not be in the same theater, but right next to the Metropolitan Opera is another opera house, and that's where City Opera played. And City Opera did more sort of new works, more contemporary stuff. It was younger performers. It was definitely not like the minor leagues. It was still very much the major leagues, but it wasn't the Met. Anyway, so they were doing a new opera called Dead Man Walking, an adaptation of the book and the movie, and by composer Jake Heggie and libretto by Terrence McNally, the playwright. And so because she got free tickets because she worked there, we all went, and I sat in the second row and watched Dead Man Walking, the opera, which apparently you also saw.
That's what I remember is that we were like nude people.
They were, yeah. So the opening scene, and I was second row, there were naked people. And for 22-year-old Keith, this was very exciting. Spoiler alert, it's also exciting for 41-year-old Keith because I'm still 14. But anyway, I loved the opera. I thought it was really good and really moving. Ended up seeing a fair amount of them there.
What I thought was really interesting about it that I recall was I think it was the first time I had seen an opera, or first or second time I had seen an opera not in a foreign language. You know what I mean? In English.
Yeah.
And what I know this sounds really silly probably, but I never studied this so much opera. Initially, that's what they placed. We've been there. So I always thought that the sort of opera sound, the placement of vowels, the shape of vowels, the openness of opera singing was due in part to the language, right? So hearing English sung in that fashion made me sort of understand that opera is a technique. Opera is different because the truth, interestingly, I think, if you were to listen to an English opera like this, like Keith just played, you still have to really tune in to understand phonetically what people are saying because consonants are not really the lead characters in opera. Sometimes it's hard to know what people are saying.
Well, this is why at school we took foreign languages. You know, we took Italian, but then Italian diction, singing diction. And then we took German and German singing diction, and we took French and French singing diction. And our senior year, we took English diction. Although most of us were native speakers, but operatic English, the vowel placement, the diction, it's all very different. And so you hear it in an opera in English. So it definitely you can tell immediately we're not on Broadway. We're not, it was just we're on Broadway in musical theater. Your objective is to make the vowels and the consonants be as close to how you would speak it as you can for the objective of being understood. It's very, very important. Whereas with opera, it's about the sound first and the diction, and the intelligibility of the words second. But if you're watching an opera in English, especially if it was originally in English, it's really weird to hear like Puccini in English. It's bad. Don't do it. Just sing it in time. But in here, you really just have to, it takes about 10 minutes and then you're used to it. And then you're living in that world and it doesn't feel jarring. Even though in this particular opera, it was set in contemporary times, dealing with contemporary issues. And so there were references to contemporary music in the score. I thought it was great. I actually really liked this one. And in a couple of, I don't know if it's this year or next year, I'll also see the opera version of Little Women, which I thought was amazing. Especially considering it was like a couple weeks later, I saw the Broadway adaptation of Little Women, and I was like, eh. So, anyway, it's so interesting that we were both at the same opera.
Just for the Better Podcast's sake, the City Opera of New York City is still operating, and they will come back out of the pandemic. Interesting synchronicity, as our word is our podcast word. They will open up January 22nd of 2022 with a co-production, a production of The Garden of the Finzi, Cotinis, world premiere by Ricky Ian Gordon and Michael Corey. But it's a co-production that will be taking place at the National Yiddish Theater Volksbühne.
Really?
Yes. So I don't based on
that's a smaller venue than City Opera was.
Very, very smaller venue. It does still operate out in Lincoln Center at times. If you're looking at the iconic picture of the Met, then on your right is where City Opera usually performs.
On your left. On your left is City Opera. On your right is Avery Fisher.
Yes, correct. Which is, or also, what else? What's that school over there? The one for talented people.
Juilliard?
That's the one.
Yeah. Hey,
I said
we were number one. Juilliard was number 3 when I was there. Suck my balls. Anyway.
I was busy. I was very busy. Juilliard came knocking, but they couldn't.
All right. Anyway, just a couple other news and notes for me. I was starting my first job, which was a temp job. I started with a temp agency because Lord knows I needed money bad. And my first temp job was at WebMD, which still exists. And actually one of my good friends still works for WebMD. And it was really interesting because my first job in New York City, it was on like 30th Street and 8th Avenue. So it was right down there in the mess of it. And I was covering for a woman who was out on maternity leave, but her first week, she was still there. So they just put me in front of a computer and said, just hang out. And so for the first week that I was there, I sat in front of a computer for 8 hours with literally nothing to do. And
Those are the best temp jobs.
It was fine. It was boring though. I started writing a novel well before I actually started doing it for real. So somewhere in the world exists like 30 pages of a novel that will never happen. It was a good concept. Anyway, so that's what I was doing, and I was only about a week from starting what would become, at least for me, an iconic temp job at NYU.
You stayed at in the medical universe, didn't you?
I stayed there and at the NYU Medical Center. And for those of you paying attention at home, yes, that is the job that is from the experience.
Award-winning.
The award-winning show, I Got Fired. That was the job I got fired from, and then turned it into a musical and flew across the world to win some freaking trophies. All right. Anyway, let us move forward. For the love of God.
I'm a human being. God
Well,
damn it.
no, time out.
My life has
You've skipped so many things.
Oh my God, I sure did. Well, my life is not valuable because we have to talk about...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Well, this is, of course, A Moment Like This.
Are you hearing
sung
it?
by Kelly Clarkson. I am.
Okay, good.
Oh, we're such a good podcast. The cover of the Burlington Free Press was Louisiana waterlogged. So... glad we solved that problem. And the top movie was Red Dragon, the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, which took in $36 million. Very jarring because it came out about, 12 years after Silence of the Lambs, and we're just pretending that Anthony Hopkins is younger. It doesn't matter. He's such a good actor. It's fine. So it is now time to talk.
Hold on.
Oh no, what's happening?
You remember like 2 seconds before we started the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, hey, I want to talk about this thing," and then you like,
yeah. Oh, right. Well, you have to tell me when. I'm not really listening. All right,
that's been made abundantly clear.
All right, folks, it's time for. That's right, kids. We have a Back in Time True Crime More TV.
Yes, that was disturbing. So I real quick wanted to talk about a show that I started watching. We're only 4 episodes in, so I was bashing David E. Kelly's. If you recall, I was bashing David E. Kelly's. What's it called? 9 Perfect Strangers on Hulu or whatever. And then I realized I don't want to diss our sponsor Hulu so much. And by sponsor, I mean not sponsor, but we just use Hulu.
Meaning they haven't sued us yet. That is what counts as sponsorship. If you have not actually sued us yet, you're a sponsor.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Anyway, I started watching a show on Hulu right now called Only Murders in the Building. That was Jackie Hoffman. That was friend of the show.
I thought it was that Jackie. Oh.
And
we'll hear from her later.
The premise of this show is all things that you would think should not work, plus some things that should work. So the main cast is Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. And the elevator pitch for the show is 3 unlikely friends or unlikely strangers become friends as they create a true crime murder podcast.
Oh, interesting.
Which is weird because you're like, how do you film a podcast? But basically what it does is it takes all of these true crime tropes that you know, Sarah Koenig, the sort of like jaunty piano interludes between things. It uses them in the production of a television show. Exactly. It twists them on their head for comedy value, but also as a framing device. The first episode where you need to introduce the characters and create it just is so exquisitely written and pieced together that it's worth watching if you even have the most passing interest in true crime or true crime podcasts for that alone. However, it also has two absolute geniuses in Steve Martin and Martin Short. And what is excellent is that Martin Short is doing Martin Short, as is normally the case, but this is like the most refined Martin Short has been in absolute years. They've just nailed it. And Steve Martin is the perfect foil because he is playing straight man Steve Martin, think Father of the Bride time, but with a pathos that I don't know that I've ever seen Steve Martin have. It's absolutely some of his best work. And Selena Gomez, who you would think, Selena Gomez up with these two titans, is perfect. So what I thought was just going to be sort of like a passing entertainment is actually, and the central mystery is actually pretty good too. And it has some great cameos by Jackie and whatnot. But I just have to say that I'm so blown away by how much better this show is than it should be or that you expect it to be. And they're brief episodes. We're only 4 in, so it's a perfect time to jump in and catch up. You have to watch this show. It's a high recommend. It's right in our wheelhouse for mystery, and the way it's framed is really like current and cool. I really am a fan, and I think everybody should watch the show.
That's a good sell. I mean, I love Martin Short and Steve Martin. I saw Martin Short's show on the B-Way. It was hilarious.
Yeah, and they're dealing with some interesting. Everybody's dealing with their own personal stuff, and we can, what happens when your career is sort of flagging or over, and like how do you deal with that?
Or never happened.
Yeah, well, that's a different show, buddy. So
that's our show.
Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. High recommend. Get in, be there, be squared. We'll talk about it maybe another time after you've watched a little bit.
Okay. We did it, and you got through a more TV in, less than 45 minutes. I'm pretty excited.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Not bad at all.
All right, well, then I feel like we maybe don't even deserve this bumper, but we're going to get it anyway. Oh, wait, no, because you just cut in front of the most important segment on the show.
Hold on, I got to get there. Hold on, let me get me prepared for it.
You interjected.
Okay, go for it.
There we go. All right, here we go.
It's time for Sportsball.
The New York Football Giants knocked off the Cowboys 21-17 at Cowboy Stadium. Ike Hilliard, Marcellus Rivers, and Amani Toomer caught touchdowns from Kerry Collins, who outdueled Quincy Carter in the win that brought the Giants to 3-2. Meanwhile, the Eagles dropped the game to Tom Coughlin's Jaguars in Jacksonville. McNabb rushed for 100 yards and a touchdown in the loss, but Mark Brunell got the W.
Yay.
Yeah, we did it. All right.
I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
Okay, folks, we are talking about The Practice, Season 7, Episode 2, Convictions. It was written by David E. Kelly and Jonathan Shapiro. He is a buddy this time. Jonathan Shapiro last wrote on Fireproof. It is directed by Christina Musri, who last directed Manifest Necessity. So it's a big episode. We are continuing the Lindsay she done locked up and storyline, and that brings us with only one important thing to answer, and it's going to be shark related.
What is that supposed to mean? What's your problem? Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Look at you looking so young in that picture.
I've aged. The presidency has aged me. Business has been picking up. And one thing I know for sure is that Rebecca is all business. All right. Rebecca begins her journey in front of the Supreme Court today of Massachusetts to get her buddy Lindsay out, to redeem everything that we've been doing for seasons upon seasons. But Mike, you might ask, how are we going to jump the shark? Well, very easily. All right. You know, it wouldn't be shark jumpy to say, Jimmy's a dum-dum, because Jimmy is often a dum-dum. But he's in a really important case here. Eugene, you'll remember, was so effusive last week about we're not going to say anything, blah, blah, blah. And they arrested that poor lady.
This is about the abducted kid story.
Yeah, they arrested the poor lady whose kid was abducted. All right. So I think in a flippity-doo-dah, going against the wishes of the firm and Eugene, Jimmy is going to be the defense lawyer for lady accused of kidnapping, who Jimmy knows didn't do the kidnapping, but can't say because he's also representing the other lady. The firm is, all right? So Jimmy has to do a case defending a woman he knows is innocent, but cannot show the evidence, okay? Now, Mike, that sounds like a great episode of TV. That's not shark jumpy, but
Yeah.
don't forget, we got hot new lawyer. That's Jorge's words, not mine. She will be paired with Jimmy, as is Keith's two-shot or slate. But here's where it happens, folks.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing a shark.
The Jimmy and what's the new lawyer's name?
Jamie Stringer.
The Jimmy-Jamie relationship is an absolute off-the-wall Turner and Hooch, like, shtick comedy duo. Every scene they're in together is tonally completely inconsistent with a procedural drama. It is wacky, zinger-a-minute comedy. That's my prediction.
If you really want to jump the shark, those scenes shouldn't be a zany comedy, but they should be a musical.
Oh.
They should be a musical. So here's my task
Ally
to
McBeal
you.
musical?
Yes. So here's my task to you. After each of the scenes that they share together, I would like to hear your composition of what they're singing in the musical version of their scenes.
We're going to do it during the podcast?
During the podcast. We're doing it live.
All right.
All
right.
That's
Just
what's going to happen.
You have to remind me. All right, folks. Hope you don't want to miss that.
If that's not a teaser to hop over to your podcasting service of choice to listen to us listen and Mike compose on the fly. It's time, and we will see you back here for the Oopsies.
And we are back, baby.
We are indeed. Holy moly. We have gotten through The Practice, Season 7, Episode 2, Convictions, and it's another big episode. And in case you missed it, first off, why? Because you missed a musical. It was a musical episode of The Practice, and we're going to do everyone's favorite segment now, sung, entitled...
2, 3, 4. Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show. Segment.
I started late now so that I have enough time. That's the point. Hey, y'all.
Music, singing.
Some lady's pissed because she unwittingly got coerced into admitting she kidnapped somebody that she didn't, even though she was just like working at the laundry. Also, Rebecca's standing in front of the 7-panel jury and gives a nicely written case, but it's not a great case. But guess what? She wins anyway. Lindsay gets another trial. And guess what? We ain't taking no plea. Oh, and new lawyer convinces the criminal mom who didn't care before to care now, and the girl's back. Oh, man, that was bad.
You know, and also I promised it was going to be sung. It didn't work.
Yeah, I was confused because I thought last week we decided that it was over, that segment entirely. We were going right to... Oh, yeah.
It's only over if I find it funny to be over, or if I find it funnier to do. That's what we're going to do.
So should we just redo it in song this time?
No, we're going to... But our next segment, you're going to have to sing. And our segment, you're actually going to have to sing. The segment we call...
The appeal begins. Jimmy tries to have his cake. We have one more chance.
You were an E this time. Well done. Well done. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, it's time to hand out some fake awards. What do you say?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
Oopsie.
the Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, welcome back, Jackie. The Oopsies are a very important awards show that begins with...
You know, that time I really tuned in, and it's as disturbing as it felt.
To
at
all
the
the
time.
nuances you were hoping for? Yeah.
You know, this is for the first time in a while the stakes on this one are really tough because we have two really deserving lawyers. One is our new lawyer, Jamie Stringer, because her actions, and I don't know if it was she wasn't particularly in her power as an attorney at the time, but I guess she was. She convinced the mom in hard quotes to admit to her crime, which not only gives relief to a woman, it saves her life from going to prison for 25 years, but also gives her back, in softer quotes, her daughter. And it also reveals the truth to a woman who was living a life that was not, I don't want to say it wasn't legitimate, but it was not, she didn't know her lineage, right? The big lie was being kept from her. And so all of those things were undone. And I'm not saying it's easy peasy and that it's going to be all smoke, rainbows and sunshine, but at least everyone's living in their truth now. There's consequences for the one woman. There's a resolution for the other woman, and there's the chance at a reunion for the daughter. That's pretty important. I don't know that you can put a price tag on that. On the other hand, Lindsay Dole is given reprieve. We saw some of the stakes. She was coming to terms with her new reality, which was pretty stark. And Rebecca, even though Keith and Mike question how strong her appeal case was, because from what it sounded like, that 3-minute pitch to the appeals court was all that she got. That plus the brief that they prepared is what went ahead and earned Lindsay a second trial. And that chance does not only affect Lindsay Dole, but it affects Bobby's life and it affects Bobby Jr.'s life. So those are two cases that it save someone's life and also give a second chance to a child. Those are huge stakes for both. Though I think the edge goes to Rebecca for me because she actually had to actively use her litigation skills in order to get that result. And so for that reason, I think Rebecca Washington is most valuable lawyer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Jamie did really important good work here, and does sort of rescue Jimmy and the firm and this whole case here. But she sort of did almost what your BFF would do. Would sit you down and like, Mike, buddy, we all know you're eventually going to confess. And right now, you're just sort of spinning the ball along, and you're kind of making it worse for everybody. You know you're going to confess. I know you're going to confess. Why don't you just put us out of our misery, and confess to the horrible thing that Mike and Deglio definitely did. But I think, but no, I think Rebecca, not only did she have to lawyer, she had to lawyer with that weak case and had to sort of make up for her weak case with her conviction and her passion, which is why they chose her in the first place, in front of the Massachusetts Supreme Court. So the stakes were high. Also, she had to like think on her feet against pretty hard questioning. So I think it's Rebecca, and I think it's time to award Rebecca with her MVL.
It does kind of suck, though, don't you think, that, like, here's Rebecca's big moment. I think it's going to be this huge arc, and, like, Rebecca's portion is part of one episode?
I know. We'll get to it in the tires about this feeling rushed.
I was shocked when that phone call gave... I mean, midway through, you were like, oh, you clock it? Because you think that they try a little too hard to do the switcheroo. The tonal switcheroo.
Right.
It still felt like they at least deserve. Even last season, we had like a 4 or 5 episode arc to start the season. We didn't get. Yeah. Rebecca doesn't get that.
Well, the arc isn't done. Just Rebecca's part in it appears to be done. Which we'll get to it in tires. It's not time for that yet.
Okay.
You know what it's time for? Remember, season 7 is double time. Get ready.
Yep.
Definitely stretch.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
This is a very serious podcast, guys. Very serious. About very legal issues.
Look, there was a lot of people doing a lot of guest acting on this. I'm going to keep it brief here, Keith. I think she's out of the main title now. So for a scene in which her best line was 2 words, I'm okay, I'd like to go back in time and give the best guest actor to Holland Taylor as Judge Kittleson. I believe she's a guest actor on this episode.
Oh, yeah. She's always been a guest actor. She's never been in the titles.
And I think she
won an Emmy.
She gets to be Kittleson, the judge in this episode, and she also gets to be Kittleson, the human.
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking Christine Rose, who was the accused woman, who did a really good job. But you're right. God damn, Holland Taylor, in like one quick scene in which she only says a few lines. No, you're totally right. I wasn't going in that direction, but you know what? You just pulled me there, and you might win MVL of this episode because you totally turned me around.
What I also love about that scene too, I guess we'll talk about it in tires maybe, is also that was a scene for us. That was a scene for people who have been watching. That was not a bottle episode scene. That was just for like longtime viewers who have been wondering, like, are we gonna acknowledge that like they don't really like that the Jimmy and Kittleson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
No, really, yeah, fine work. Yeah, good point. Well done. You want to know who else did a good job? It's gonna be our.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
So, at first blush, I want to give it to Lisa Gay Hamilton just for that delivery of that monologue, which I thought was really strong. There's great performances by top to bottom in this episode too, but I know he won last episode, but But Dylan does another stellar job this episode. He has to play a lot of colors. His interactions with Lindsay, his interactions with Rebecca, his interactions with the whole case, with Eleanor, he's really good. Also, Badalucco was excellent this episode. Our new cast member was really great. You could convince me of any of them. I'm leaning towards Bobby, surprisingly. Dylan. And Rebecca, I think, are really get my two highest votes. But you could turn me. So I'm saving my vote just yet.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm gonna steer you towards Lisa Gay again. Dylan did do good work for sure, but he was, for the most part, reacting, whereas Lisa Gay was driving this whole episode. She drove the episode with her doubt and her sort of watching her go through the mock trial, having to regroup and get herself ready, and then really took the stage, gave us that West Wing moment, and both in the courtroom and I think on the show, tricked us into thinking her case was much stronger than it was through her delivery of the case. And so it was both the character and the actor given a lot of heavy lifting to sort of push us through the incredulity from the judge's standpoint, but also as an audience, she had to sort of like, we're going to make this work one way or the other, and she really nailed it. So okay. I think it's Lisa Gay, personally.
All right, I'm in.
All right, haha! We both have a victory here in the Oopsies in our litigation. You know who had a victory in real life? As
Last
sad
minute.
and incredulous though we may be, God damn, he did it again. And that is
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
I mean,
it's shark season.
Yeah, it's shark season, so everything is about sharks, right? This week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady goes to Tom Brady wins an appeal. Tom Brady in appellate court with a 7-shark panel.
Ooh, okay. Tom Brady in appellate court. Tom Brady before a
7-shark appellate court.
Okay. I'm writing them down because it takes me forever to scrub our video to try to remember who won everything. Okay, 7-shark appeal court. Okay, great. Very, very good. All right, now it is time for...
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Oh,
Take it away.
Let's go high def. Slash down my schnoz.
Yeah.
We talked so much and sang so much in this episode that I thought it was dragging a little bit because we weren't really moving the plot forward. But then we really moved the plot forward. In fact, we resolved the kidnapping case, which I didn't know that would happen this episode. And we got Lindsay not out of prison, but back into the courtroom for a second trial. I thought that there were it gave me in the beginning a lot of stuff that I really wanted, which was like, let's strategize to get the appeal thing going. And, we got the resolution in the kidnapping case. Let me start there. And I actually, though, I thought the interplay between Jimmy and Jamie was very good. She was more of an observer. And I thought that what was cool about, though I thought that it was a little, the resolution is interesting, but I don't know that it feels as earned as Jamie set it up, right? She said that I've been observing this whole time, and it seems like you really want to confess. I've been observing it the whole time, and I did not get the impression she wanted to confess. I got the impression she wanted to have everything her way, which was, I don't want my daughter to find out. I don't want to get in trouble, but I do want the lady to know and for her to not go. She just wanted a happy, rosy outcome. So it's a little, but what I do like about it is that the apology scene with Jimmy was really good, and what Jimmy explained to her, that it's not just black and white. Sometimes we have to use shades of gray ethically to get where we're going, was interesting because they then buttressed that with her using a bit of a gray area ethically by going to the lady's house and convincing her to it. It was cool. I liked that interplay. It felt buttoned up a little quickly, but that seems to be a theme, because on the other side, I am blown away that we got the resolution we got already. I guess I see that they want to... I think they might have seen that the appellate process is less furtive dramatically than the courtroom process.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they felt maybe a little trapped by it, because even that one scene with Rebecca, if I don't know the appellate process very well, but it seems like that's it. You take a swing, and then they generally have a chance to question you, which I think goes on a lot longer than we saw in the episode. But outside of that, it was a neat wrinkle that I don't know that. I mean, I guess I'm interested to hear what you have to say about them then kind of faking that beat with Eleanor. Like, we've got it. Like 2 episodes, we've seen that Eleanor fucked up. They all did, but Eleanor's going to take the fall for it. So, but then we're going to fake that we're going to turn on you too. Not turn on you, but use you basically for the appeal. That seemed a little... I guess what I'm getting at is it rushed is the word. I thought the episode was strong acting-wise. I actually thought some of the writing was great. They used a little shorthand. I agree that I don't know that our appellate case was... I don't know that it's as believable. It's funny. I think that Kittleson's antics are more believable still than the appellate, them overturning a conviction that quickly seems... Especially... And then I'm disappointed that we still don't have a great... I don't know. As you can tell, I'm a little conflicted on how I feel about the episode. It felt, in the beginning, a little placeholder-y, a little treading watery, and then in the end, it felt a little rushed. So, like, for me, what that says to me is that the pacing is off. The pacing felt off. So I feel lukewarm about that as a bottled episode. I still like where it sets us up, where we're going, because I'm interested in the case. I hope that... My fear is that Rebecca gets cast aside. It does not sound like she's going to try the new case, which bothers me. But that's less about spare tires for this episode and more about some problems we've had with their use of Lisa Gay. All told, I'm feeling lukewarm. I'm talking I don't want to say 6 something, because I still think it's excellently acted and pretty well written, well delivered by our cast members. I'm going to say 7.11.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to work B case to A case. Okay. I'm gonna disagree with you that this woman's confessing wasn't set up.
Okay.
Because I think the argument that Jamie made, I thought was really well articulated, and I think pretty definitive in my book, because we've talked for 2 episodes about how reckless this woman has been and the risks that she has taken, coming forward in the first place. But her showing up in the courtroom of this case, that's crazy reckless. Having her daughter there constantly, bringing her daughter to the firm, then having meetings in her home where her daughter can just walk in. And Jamie pointed out, she kept going into the firm when they said, don't come here, don't associate yourself with it. She was taking risks constantly, risking exposure here and connection with this case. So for me, her recklessness was what Jamie was referring to, her subconscious setting herself up to be revealed. And so I actually thought that made sense. I thought that... I thought Jamie's supposition about her motives there actually made a fair amount of sense. So that I liked all of that. I mean, the position that Jimmy put himself in strained credulity, but I thought Jamie's resolution of it, I thought that made sense. And I bet that happens pretty often, where people sort of want to confess. They don't want to hold this secret for the rest of their lives. I kind of get it. Now on the appeal of it all with Rebecca's case. I thought there's two things that happened. It's almost like the thinness of Rebecca's case winning didn't make sense to me. But the ineffective assistance of counsel did seem like there was more grounds there. I feel like it would have been better and more realistic to go, and better like story. But would have been a little bit more exciting to, as opposed to have the Eleanor's having screwed this up be a subplot. That should have been the plot. That should have been what she was arguing. I think that would have been much more interesting. And what I thought halfway through this episode was like, oh, okay, so that we're gonna try this and realize, no, this ineffective assistance is going to be what this is about, and our next episode is going to be about that, where we really sort of, take ourselves on. But that's not what's going to happen, because they're going to retry the case, at which point, Eleanor's role in the previous case is now tossed out. It's not part of the story anymore. So I really wish we had done that.
But imagine they do that, right? Imagine they do that, and then by the end of it all, when Lindsay gets out, Lindsay's career is ruined. Eleanor's is ostensibly ruined. At least both of their reputations are destroyed. And then what women are left? It's Rebecca and New Girl.
But I think you can set up a rebuilding arc. Where they have to start from the ground, from ground zero again, and you have to build and build and build. I don't know. I think that makes sense. I like that. But that's not what we're gonna do with Eleanor, at least. But I think you put your finger on it exactly with this by saying they didn't build a flaw in the Death Star, and I think in terms of for the appeal. The flaw in the Death Star of Simichiewicz's case against Lindsay. And this is where I think we are coming across the flaws of the lack of planning from the previous season. That if you're going to do this whole thing, right, you're going to convict Lindsay, and then you're going to go through an appeals process and try to get her out. If they had planned that from season 6, had been planning this throughout season 6, they would have built a flaw in the Death Star. They would have built an appealable case that wasn't thin. And if you had been smart about it, you would have built it in so that they wouldn't have thought of it, or it would have been hidden. You would have revealed it. But the problem is, they didn't write a flaw. Simichiewicz's they won because he put forth a good case, and there really wasn't much of a grounds to appeal it. There really wasn't much of a... And the problem we're having here, too, is they didn't build Lindsay much of a defense case. They kind of boxed her into a corner. So I think that's just it. The thinness of this argument is due to lack of planning from the end of season 6. So we're trying to fix it now. And so they couldn't really come up with a good argument for this appeal. And I think that was the mistake.
Yeah, now, barring, like what you're saying, what I see, and I'm generally wrong, but barring something I'm not seeing, it seems almost like because of that lack of planning, that lack of the flaw in the Death Star, this time our best hope is not that we win the case, but that Simichiewicz's gets so pissed off or grossly eager that he loses the case. And that's not particularly exciting.
Well, it could be
exciting.
The other part that I'm surprised about is we had Jamie come in last episode and lay out the perfect defense for Lindsay. But then that's not what we're talking about at the end of this episode. We may get to it next week, and we may end up basically doing a jury nullification through wink, wink self-defense, which what they should have done at the very first place. And Jamie articulated that perfectly. And why we just abandoned that, we're talking about insanity or whatever, which is the mistake they made last time. They're just talking through making the same mistake. So I'm assuming at the beginning of next episode, we're going to be like, oh, wait, no, we should do this and make a more coherent defense. But setting us up at this point, it looks like we're about to make the same dumb mistakes we made for the last case.
Well, let's zoom out a little bit. Sorry, I always interrupt you, but let's zoom out. Yes, that has plot implications, but it has show implications too, because whereas this sort of, oh no, she's guilty is great for a season finale, right? And
Right.
this, for tension, and this, we have to do the appeals process. We have to now appeal that and work our way through the appellate system is great for resolving that. Now we're basically saying, well, we're going to redo a season finale type arc at the beginning of a new season when we've already gone through all of the debate of what our strategy should be and everything. So we kind of neuter ourselves for this second go. And it's like, this is what I was just saying a few minutes ago. Save Schmitzvitz being I pronounce his name different every single time.
Every time.
Save him being like a monster or some crazy new wrinkle getting thrown in. We are literally now going to just do a redo. We're literally retconning it.
But here's where you have an opportunity. So now, if we're gonna retry Lindsay, now we have to find a way, both in canon, to find a way to win this time, but out of canon, from the writer's standpoint, how do you not only find a way to win, but how do you make it different? And how do you not just replay what happened? So I'm excited to see how they go about this moving forward. So, all in all, the weird thing is, as I just sort of picked apart this from a meta standpoint, I liked this episode. I thought it was really good. And so, on the oopsies, we're rating these one episode at a time. So I can't punish this episode's for the failing of previous episodes. That's what we do in the season oopsies. So I actually like this one more than you did. As we go to black, I think I'm going to give this episode almost more than a full tire better than yours. I'm going to give it 8.15.
Wow.
Because the logical inconsistencies are not the fault of this episode. I thought I was compelled. I was interested. I loved the Jimmy Holland Taylor scene. That really added it for me.
The Jimmy Jamie scene was great too. We really are finding a way to write Jimmy better now.
Yeah, well, and I thought Jimmy's weird antagonism at the beginning was forced and bad, but then he explained it, and that made sense too. So I don't know. I liked it. I liked it better than I should have. And perhaps I'm being too generous, but I'm into it. So anyway, it is time to move on to our Easter egg. And it should be pretty straightforward what it is.
Got no scrubs. Scrub is a guy who can't get no love from me. Right? Is that Scrub Lady down there?
Yes, it is. That is Alomo Wright as Nurse Laverne on Scrubs here, joining the cast, giving us her iconic look down the barrel of the glasses and judge. So there we are. Okay, well, there I don't know why we just snapped, but we did it. We are here. Let me just find. Here we go. There we go. Well, folks, you have gotten through another long and musical episode of the Out of Practice podcast. If you would like to submit your own songs to the Out of Practice podcast, you can reach us by email at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram faster than Mike can find the slide at Out of Practice Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And while you're there, while Mike is still searching for that slide, you can leave us a rating and review, puberty, on Apple Podcasts and join the jury. We'll happily read your comments, and now he's going too fast. We'd like to thank our founding sponsors, Jorge Navoa, Cloudlover69, Leanne Rice, and Jennifer Masanova, and Kari Kuhn.
Did you know that I was just being inconsistent with the pacing, much like the episode of The Practice? But you can be consistent with your contributions to the show. Make them monthly, make them one time, make them at least once. And you can do that by clicking the links in the show notes, or just let a friend know to watch our Star Trek show, because that's all people do. At the end of the day, I want you to be really, really rude to me and then apologize for it and make up to it by shooting off some very polite and conciliatory laser sounds.
Laser sounds was the musical, see?
Oh, yeah.